untouched, unguided. We have helped them progress and seen them accomplish wonders.
Salma, I'm going to start with you because I feel just listening to the way you talked about it, it's something that you definitely sort of had to deal with when you started telling people that you were doing this, and something that you wanted to do for a long time. So I'm just curious, in your life, who had the best reaction to your casting? Or was it you? Because I have a feeling it might have been you.
Okay, if it's not if it's in my family, it's my husband. But actually, I have a friend. Her name is Samantha, and she is Mexican, and she is obsessed with comics and superheroes and Marvel. She's a grown woman, mind you, but she knows everything. She is obsessed. And I couldn't tell her for so long.
Oh, because we had to keep quiet for so long.
We have to keep quiet.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask her because she was going to give me the Bible of who I was. And that one just like, it was like a telenovela. She just shook and cry and cry and cry. She said, "You're not joking." No, for real. And she was just, by the way, she's a director, and she was just like out of her mind. It was really,
I can't wait for her to see it.
Strange to watch her.
I know. And then I think I know, but why don't you tell me who had the best reaction to your casting?
No.
Really? I figured it would have been one of your kids.
I'll tell you who had the best reaction.
Oh.
Me, I was in the movie.
I mean, I think my kids, you know what's so funny is when you're a mom and you're such a mom and they know me like, and I think there's that like, that's so great, mom, but mom. You know, so it became this, like, it was going to be really fun. I think they were excited to meet the other people, excited to, you know, for my family, the diversity within the cast is so wonderful for so many reasons. And it's just right. And it's just due time. And it just felt as it should, very natural and as it is. But it felt very nice from my family where we just,
it feels like a movie for them.
There
like,
are characters that they're,
each,
you know, it's not, and there's been lots of different representation in different separate films, but not the same family.
Yeah.
All together in one family that felt more. So for my family, I was very happy to be a part of this.
And
family.
that's part of what I love about the diversity of it, that it is diverse, but it's one family.
Yes.
And in every family, everybody's different. You can't, even if they look alike, even if they are the same color, even everybody's different and it's celebrated different.
Yeah. And I think that is the best part. And it's not just with who they are, their personalities, their physical appearance, but I mean, more importantly, like their powers and what they bring to this team. And I do have to say, like, the natural question is always going to be like, is it your power, the one that you want, or are you envious of maybe one of the other Eternals' powers? So Sam, I'll start with you. Is there one of the others' power that you would want, or maybe you want to keep your own power?
I felt like I was stolen. Because my character in the comics flies.
Oh, they didn't let you fly.
No, they didn't. Don't think I didn't ask. They didn't let me fly. I kind of glide a little, but they don't let me fly.
But we're saying, though, the difficulty is in the comics, we all have almost every power. And it's just almost impossible to make a film if we're all great at everything.
That's true.
Supremely. So we kind of they had to select so we could come up against each other so we could, but I like you when you gliding. I like the idea of you gliding though.
Yeah,
you said that. I do like, you could have at least floated a little bit.
A little bit. We have to work together a little. Angelina, the problem is that she normally glides in real life, like when she walks in. So the problem here is like, ground yourself. You can't be this ethereal creature. Well, you are ethereal, but because she if you watch her walk through the room, she's like already gliding.
No. I mean, yes. And it's very difficult as a girl who bought out the entire Delia's catalog to try and emulate what she did in Hackers, not to get starstruck right now. I literally, you were my first fashion like
Aw.
inspiration as a kid. So yeah, it's been a minute for me to try and keep my professionalism. And you're right, she does glide. But I will ask you the same question. Which power would you want to possess of the Eternals?
Well, it's interesting. I think we were all strangely cast as ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But something about us, we were cast because there's something about us that fits the person, you know, it is natural to you to be the healer and the mother and it's natural to me to be a little aggressive and a bit emotional and a little,
And obsessed with and all about justice
and loyalty. So in a way, I think I was very, and I think the fun too, when I first came in, they said, I thought I had my staff with the crescent. And then I said, what are my weapons? I need to practice. And then he kept sending me weapons. And I kept thinking, is Marvel indecisive? Or why is nobody telling me what's going on? And then they said, no, it's every weapon.
Like they're all yours.
And I was at first a bit taken aback. And then I thought, how cool is that? I can, every weapon. Does that mean I get Thor's hammer?
I mean, that's the tea right there, because y'all are part of the universe. And now it's like who you want to go up against. And let me just say, a fight between you and Thor, there is not amount of money I would not pay to see that. I'm like, down.
I think we should
I think I can make it. What do you mean?
You're right.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
He would get starstruck like he did with the Valkyrie. Yeah, no, I would absolutely think you could take Thor. One little thing real quick before we get out of here too, because Salma, your character as both the leader of the group, but also the healer, it's such a interesting dichotomy for the group to have the person who's leading them as also the person that's healing them. And I was just curious, like for you, did that make, I think, some aspects of the filming more difficult, less difficult? Because I feel like it's like you feel the cost of all these characters.
I'll tell you what, for me, that's what leaders were supposed to be.
Yeah.
People should get in a position of power to heal, to evolve, and not to get obsessed with the power itself. They forget that they're working for the people and they're supposed to heal the differences between the people. They're supposed to heal their pain, their ability to feel their inability to feel power. People feel powerless right now.
Yeah.
And so it's not much of a conflict, because that's what I believe a healer, a leader should be. But she does have a lot of conflicts because she has a sense of duty, but then she also has her own sense of justice. Yes. And she feels and she cares. She kind of like approaches leadership as a mother. Which again, that's how every leader should approach leaderhood.
Kingo, the movie star. I've directed some things too.
It was so great seeing your characters. It was so great watching them just like kick butt during the premiere. Like that opening scene where you guys really sort of show your abilities. I absolutely loved it. But it made me have the question, which one of the Eternals is like the one whose power you'd want to have personally? So Lauren, I'll start with you. Whose power would you want to have? Or maybe you just want to keep your own power from your character.
Ooh, I can keep my own power. Okay, I think I do like my power the most. Just because it's really nice. Like in real life, I do run. And I would love to run like Akari. It's so effortless. And she can go around the world. Could you imagine running around the world?
I mean, no, but I definitely like the idea of not having to fly ever again, like not have to get on a plane. So I'm about that. Yeah. If I could just be like, we're going to Milan and just be there. Yeah, I'm about that. Kumail, what about you?
Well, now I'm trying to find a power that would also allow me to skip planes, because I want to go other countries, but I don't want to be on a plane.
Exactly.
So I guess Icarus, he can fly, I would fly wherever I want to go.
Yeah, I think I'm like weird because I would want Barry's, I want Druid's power, and not to like control people like a leader. I would just want to like, when people are being evil, I would want them to like be nice. So like,
So you
don't
would still use it for good.
I would use it for good. I would not use it for evil. I would
bet
try
that's the
anyway.
first week you're good. The first week, and by the second week, you're just like, this is my parking space.
Oh my God. You know what? I do think that power could corrupt someone, as maybe we see in the film. I have to ask both of you this because I think one of the coolest things in the world would be to be in a movie like this, to be able to play a superhero and to know, especially with both of you, that this may be the first time that someone sees themselves as a superhero on screen. But I'm going to start with you, Lauren. Who had the best reaction to your casting? Because I feel like the people around you, you're getting ready to go to work. You know, there's going to be a lot of work and long days, but the people around you, I'm sure, were very excited when they found out. And I wonder who had the best reaction knowing you're going to be in Eternals.
That's funny. So my boys, really. My son, I mean, he kind of seemed unfazed. I was like, I'm gonna be a superhero. He's kind of like, cool. And then my youngest son, who's 7, I grabbed my laptop, we looked it up, and we were doing some research, who's the fastest? And then he's like, no, Makari's not that fast, Mom. I'm not impressed. I'm pretty sure that Flash is going to be faster than you. I was like, excuse me? But so I did love their reactions, and they really kept me grounded throughout the whole thing. But then the Lego figure came out, and from then on, it was over. My boys after that were impressed. And then you had to win.
It takes a lot to impress kids. So that's like a double win. I love that. I think I know your answer, Kumail, but who had the best reaction to your casting?
I mean, it was Emily, my wife, you know, because she was literally the first one to know that. She was the first person I called. And, you know, when they first called me and they said, hey, so Marvel wants to have a meeting, it's Chloe Zhao and Nate Moore. And I knew Chloe was directing Eternals and I knew Nate was producing it. And Emily was like, they want you to be a superhero. And I was like, Emily, please. Just calm down. I don't think that's true. And I couldn't meet with them for a couple of weeks, you know, but I had the meeting. They said, we want you to play this character. And soon, right afterwards, I called Emily and she was just so excited. And, you know, completely believed that I could do it. And honestly, for months, the only people that knew were Emily and like, you know, the agents who have to do the deal. So really, really nobody knew. And I told my parents and I think they kind of didn't believe it. They were like, so which superhero? I was like, Kingo, you haven't heard of him yet, but there will be Lego figures.
Yeah, I love that. Also, your character, Kumail, I think when we were reading the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, we did like a first like social reactions piece. Scene stealing came up a lot in that one. And I'm just wondering, like, were you able to lean on like your stand-up comedy aspect of this? How much was in the script? Because it feels like, yeah, like it just was, this character was just designed to rob every scene that he was in.
Oh, thank you. That's very, very kind of you. You know, I mean, honestly, talking about the character, it's all Chloe, you know, she sort of came up with this character and she wanted us all to put a little bit of ourselves into each character, you know, and the reason that I think Kingo works is because of all the other characters around him, you know, like all the characters in this movie are so defined and our relationships to each other are so defined. That's what allows, you know, that's what allows my character to be sort of a little different. Everybody feels a little different, you know, and I was very grateful that I got to have like a couple short scenes with Makari in the movie because, you know, when there are 10 people, you don't get to have all those little things. So I was very excited that the first time you see me, it's me and Makari beating someone and then talking to each other, and that later in the movie we get to sort of reconnect and have like, it's a very short conversation, but I really liked it.
I loved it. And you're bringing me to my next point for you, Lauren, which is that I loved learning yesterday how involved you were in coming up with a lot of the signing language for the characters and the creation of those. Just talk us through that, because the only one I can remember, and possibly because it was easy, is Kingu. Like that was like so great. Yeah. So talk us through how you did. Yeah. Right? Oh yeah, that's a great one. Yes. So yeah, talk us through it.
I do want to back up a little bit because I want to add something to Kumail's comment. Stealing scenes, being a scene robber. Yes, Chloe really wanted just to bring a lot of ourselves and put those into the character. And I would say Kingo, I mean, yes, he's natural scene stealer. And I would say the same for Kumail. Sorry, I keep butchering the name. And it's really natural. He is a scene stealer. He is funny. He's great at ad-libbing. And I think that Chloe, I mean, she was really lucky to get someone like him. Because whenever you're directing a scene, she would be like, can you do your improv thing? And then he's like, okay. And then they would go and shoot it. It was beautiful. And okay, now back to what was your question?
About the signing. Yeah.
Yes, you're asking about the signing. And so I just want to let you know, it wasn't really me. It was mostly the work of my husband, he was the ASL consultant for this film. And he worked with Kumail, and we had worked in collaboration together, my husband and I, coming up with different name signs for each of the characters. And I do have to let you know that there are some Easter eggs. For example, Kingo, I mean, obviously, it's based on his power. He shoots lasers, he has laser guns, and then he also is a Bollywood dancer. And so it's kind of like a nice mix, but it also happened to be the name sign of my youngest son, Wyatt.
Oh.
And so, it's just between us. It's a nice little Easter egg. And then Makari, so that's my character's name sign from the face. And it does represent speed, that she zooms. That's what that sign means. And it's really close to the ear. And we picked that because I don't know if you can see in the movie, but Makari tends to wear a lot of earrings. She has these beautiful earrings on her ears. And so we based that from there. And in real life, that happened to be the name sign for my husband. His name sign is Douglas.
Dad, that's Superman with the cape, and you're shooting laser beams out of your eyes.
I don't wear a cape.
First of all, congratulations on the film. It's incredible, and both of you are so incredible in it. And what I think is so great about it is you guys play this love story that plays out over literally centuries, like in a determined amount of time. I'm just curious if you have a favorite lover from out history, like that you like, either literary, fictional, even if it's someone from the MCU.
Like, I've played Romeo twice, so I've always got a real kind of a real tie to him and how he sees the world. I mean, he's stupid, but he's a poet, and I like that.
Dig it.
Gosh, do you mean fictional or
whatever? I mean, real life, fictional, like, again, wherever you choose to go, ma'am.
Oh my goodness. If you go back to ancient Egypt, could it be like Cleopatra? Someone like,
well, which one, Mark Antony or Caesar?
Cleopatra.
Just Cleopatra, just her. I actually dig that. I like that answer. I really dig that answer. It's so great to see you guys in the Eternals, because they're this super team that all bring a different sort of power, and their powers really sort of combine to make them really great, but they individually have their own strength. And I'm just curious, maybe it's a hard question to answer, but Gemma, who do you think is the most powerful Eternals? And it's okay if you want to say yourself, by the way.
Well, like you said, they all have their different strengths. And I suppose it depends on the context as well. I mean, if we're talking kind of sheer, fighting brute strength kind of power, it's not Cersei. But she has, are we allowed to say spoilers? No, probably not. Her powers develop over the course of the film as well. So she kind of doesn't even know how powerful she is. So, yeah.
Dig that. I'll follow up with this then. Whose power would you want to have if you could have one? And then Richard, I'll come to you with the same question.
I think it'd be pretty cool to have Ajax's power to be able to heal.
Oh, that's such a great one too.
Yeah, I mean, she'd have a job for life. She'd just be going around the world trying to heal everyone.
I'm so not that altruistic. I'm like, let me be what Druid has. I want to just control people. Like, I'm sorry, maybe that's probably says something really bad about me, but I would do like he did, to like end war, to end hypocrisy, and to make the world a better place. Yeah. So Richard, what about you? Whose power would you want to have?
I just want to fly. How can you not want that one?
So your character gets to fly. So I get it. Everybody likes to fly, but I don't want to fly. I'm not a fan of flying in the modern sense. So why would I want to do it without a big, like I'm already terrified of flying. So I get it. The next thing I was going to ask you, Richard, is, and I guess you could probably say one way or the other, because I know you guys did this, but which is harder to sort of like get D'd up for, doing the Eternals or doing Game of Thrones? Because both of them seem like you just have to do so much, both physical and like a lot of like different locations. So which one do you feel is a little bit more difficult?
I think Eternals was definitely harder, just with the, I mean, the Game of Thrones, you can, you know, I was in all the heavy costumes and swinging swords and that kind of stuff. But, you know, kind of 12 hours hanging 3 flights up and diving down and flipping over and going round and round and round, that kind of stuff that's a lot of work. You know, work that I enjoy, but you're really, by the end of the day, you're pretty battered and bruised.
Oh, I can only, well, the result was breathtaking. So I appreciate all of the bruises that you went through. Your pain brought us immense pleasure. How about that? And Gemma, this is not your first time in the MCU, but like just real talk, is it just nice not to have to be blue like this time around?
I was finding, you know, when I did Captain Marvel, blue paint in like crevices, like, you know, months later. No, it was much better this time around in terms of just a fewer hours in the makeup chair, you know. Yeah, it's fun to just, yeah. And there were, you know, Cersei's a really different character, and I mean, Minerva, a lot more physical, I would say. I did a lot of kind of physical fight training because obviously she was a warrior. But Cersei, it was more about trying to tap into her emotions, her, you know, finding those kind of truthful beats amongst the kind of spectacle of the film, that was a different challenge.
And honestly, I think that's the part that folks are going to be really surprised when they see it, is throughout all of this, the 5 different folks, whether it be the more thinkers and the warriors, like that gives the film a duality too, both on like how much it's really like speaks to emotion, and then also just really has a lot of great action. Another thing I think is interesting, again, since you guys sort of go throughout the time period in history, but more in the MCU, if you could plop your character into any moment within that timeline, where would you want them to be? Would you want them to be like fighting Thanos in Endgame, or would you want them to go like hang out with the Guardians of the Galaxy? And Gemma, I'll start with you.
Well, as you say, they've been around for so long, they could kind of have hung out with everyone, really. I think it would have been fun to hang out with Thor and yeah. Thor and Valkyrie and that bunch. Yeah,
I'm with you. And not like fun, but also like not hard on the eyes, like real the Asgardians.
I think.
Yeah, they're really pretty. What about you, Richard? Where would you want to maybe plop into the MCU, go hang out with somebody else?
I'd be straight in with the Guardians, I think. I think those guys look like they're having a good time. They are partying and running around. So I think I want to jump in with them and see what trouble we can cause.
Of all the powers, I would say that they all like have usefulness in like, I would say everyday situations. So like, yeah, you want to fly, maybe I want to control things, but like, when would you want to have like maybe Lauren's super speed or Sprite's ability to like change who she is? Like, what is the situation where it'd be really nice to have the Eternals power so you can maybe escape it a bit? And Gemma, I'll start with you.
Gosh.
I would want to do Lauren when I had to study for tests. Like every time I had to study.
Cool. Maybe anywhere where there's like a long line for something, or you know, if you're stuck in security for the airport, you could just do a Sprite illusion, just go through, not have to
dig that. I dig that. What about you, Richard?
It would definitely be Sprite illusions, like when I'm working and they're like, we want you to be filming this at the moment, but also we need you over here doing stunt. We got you on the second unit doing this pickup. I'm like, if I could just make multiples of me and they could go and do everything, and maybe I could just stay at home, that would be good.
This is what the end of the world looks like. At least we have front row seats.
I just have to say, it's so exciting that folks are going to get to see this movie very soon, and we were blessed to see it early. But the thing I really loved is how each of you got to display your powers pretty early on in the movie. And Kit, you also show up very early without powers, but still very early with your own individual, I would say, powers. But I definitely want to start with you, Don. If you had to choose an Eternal's power, whose would you choose? Or you can keep your own, because I think there's benefits and like drawbacks to all of them.
Druid.
That's the one I would pick, and you're the first person to pick that one.
So I can control your mind, so I can make you watch Eternals.
That's fair. That's really fair.
Get the views up.
Yeah. Leah, what about you?
Either Sprite or Fastos, because I think those are practical powers to use in the real world. I feel.
Yeah, that's exactly my answer as well.
We've been asked this a lot, so we've had a lot of time to think about it.
I think the more I think about it, the more I like Sprite's superpower. Just if I was to use that tomorrow in today's world, it would be quite a cool party trick, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll never have to wait in line at TSA ever again. Like, that's like the best part. You'll never have to do
our own interviews. We could make someone.
Yes. Yeah. Honestly, you could. I know this is not the easiest day. So yeah, you could plop someone down in that chair for you. Yeah. Kit, I wanted to talk about your character, because you've said, I think quite often, how he gets to represent humanity in this, and just sort of being like an average guy. What did you feel sort of like? How did you approach that aspect of it in the character? Because I do feel, like I said yesterday, he definitely takes in a lot very easily and without getting spooked by it.
That's kind of what I liked about him. That was there in the first sort of iterations of script that I read, and then talking to Chloe, it's that he's not someone who gets fazed by things. And I think that's what Cersei likes in him, and I think that's what we as an audience like in him, that he's a cool customer for a human anyway, who's someone who doesn't have any powers that he can use. He shows some kind of human heroic ability at the start.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Leah, I'll ask you to go ahead and say for this one that your character, she obviously looks like a child, but then is supposed to have been on Earth for eons. But more importantly, you had to, with like a lot of nonverbal things, sort of portray an old soul. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering how you and Chloe worked on that, because she has to have like looks and sort of, I would say, not necessarily dialogue, but just little things that she did to portray the fact that this is not what she appears to be in her physical form.
Yeah, I think Chloe cast a lot of the actors because they were similar to their characters. And I found that I was very similar to my character, especially in that way. I've been told a lot of my life that I sort of am an old soul. So I was able to relate to her. I mean, of course, she gives little notes here and there on set, and we discussed it a lot, but she did refer me Maggie Smith. She wanted me to watch a couple of her movies and sort of get into that old lady mindset.
Don, I want to bring it back to you, because it's like Gilgamesh is supposed to be literally the strongest man. His sign that Lauren was so cool to like teach us yesterday is literally like strong man pretty much. But there's a lot of strong people in the MCU. There's Hulk, there's Thor, there's Captain Marvel. Do you think you can take him? Like, do you think Gilgamesh is going to be able, he could go toe to toe and take it down? And who would you want to go toe to toe with?
Hulk. Maybe.
Hulk.
He seems like he's the strongest. Maybe I knock him down. I knock him down a couple of times, and then I could show. Yeah.
You could show it. I wouldn't want to be on the other end of Hulk, but also Captain Marvel. She's like a photon. Like, so I don't know if that one like pays into it, but good on you for either way. Kit, I watched your Jimmy Fallon interview a little while ago. Did Game of Thrones like just innately train you not to give away spoilers? Like, are you like uber spoiler sensitive? Because I feel like you, more than anybody I met, you seem like you would know, because he was trying to get you to like give away spoilers in that Jimmy Fallon interview.
Yeah, it's a unique skill that I seem to have. It's one of those skills in life that you don't realize you're going to pick up, isn't it? You'll be really good at not giving away spoilers.
Yeah.
I truly believe in my heart of hearts that spoiling things for people is a worse thing to do than being seen lying or covering up in these kind of interviews. So I'm quite happy to cover up be deceitful as long as it's not going to spoil stuff for people.
Yeah.
No, that's a good way to be. And I think the audience is 100% behind you, but I do not envy the task of having to do it because I wouldn't last 10 minutes. Marvel would I'd be like the way they treat Tom Holland, where they have like 4 people around him to protect him from doing anything.
I mean, we're so scared of them. We would never want to say anything.
No.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. Dawn, again, you've done some incredible work. Your filmography is so great, but I have to think when you started telling the people around you that you were going to be in a Marvel movie, there was some interesting reactions. So I'm just curious, who had the best reaction to your casting?
Actually, I couldn't tell anybody for a while, but finally I get to tell everybody around me, and then my family, and yeah, they were so happy, and then they are all Marvel's fans, so they couldn't believe it. But it's this is like dream come true.
I love it. And Leah, what about you? Who had the best reaction to your casting?
Oh gosh, my whole family freaked out. I don't think they ever thought in a million years that something like this could happen to me. My mom started crying. My dad started crying. I mean, I feel like everyone really freaked out equally. My brothers were so shocked that I was going to be a Lego and be the action figure and be in movies. And I don't know. I mean, everyone freaked out.
I love that. And I love that everyone cried, because that's probably the right reaction. And Kit, I don't know if everyone knew what Game of Thrones was when you first got cast for that, but people knew when you walked out on stage at D23, that's a big deal. So yeah, who around you had a big reaction and what did they say?
My agent had a he was very happy.
Your agent?
But he's Kirk, one of my agents, he's genuinely a massive MCU fan. So he was thrilled.
When you love something, you protect it.
This is a movie that goes where Marvel has really never gone before. And there's so many firsts within the movie. I'm just curious, for you, where was those conversations happening? Were they organic in the script? Was it something you had to then go back to Marvel and sort of check with? How did those moments come about?
Well, it's a very kind of evolving and organic process, but I do give credit to Marvel for setting the foundation. When I came into the project, in the treatment, they've worked with the Furples. Most of these changes and these firsts you're talking about is already in there. My job is to try to make sure they don't just exist on screen for the sake of existing, but these moments are human and relatable and authentic.
I love how you put that. Also, you had a very Herculean task of introducing these 10 characters. And I would say, a few other very important supplemental characters in less than 2.5 hours. And you did it in a way that I think is different from a lot of what we could say superhero team ups. A lot of them approach it the same, the old fashioned way. We're going to do a montage and this is what they all do. And you decided to go different. So talk about your choice there for how you brought each character in to show what they do.
I think that's a very kind of evolving collaborative process to get to this point. There was the treatment starting with this idea for this to be sort of a global trotting journey in present day, but also going in the past throughout history. And we learn these characters as stories moves along. And their arc actually move our story forward. So that was the conception that I thought was very wonderful when I came into the process. It's already there. And then cast comes in, new ideas comes in, stories evolve. And then once we finish shooting, there's that very long editing process. We had to work with 2 incredible editors, Craig Wood and Dan Tickner, and that's for a long time. What stays, what goes. It was a long process.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of filmmakers describe it as, shooting the movie is really like planting the seeds and editing is the harvest. You'll find out what you planted when you go into the editing room.
I love that saying. I'm very much of an editor director. So for me, I love that process.
Yeah. And again, let's be honest, you did an amazing harvest. The film is gorgeous and it really has a pace to it and an epicness to it that I think would be difficult to describe to, I think, most folks without them having seen it. That being said, I know you're an MCU fan and you got to kind of create your own world and sort of traverse times kind of separate from the MCU timeline. But is there one particular, I would say, moment in the MCU history that you would want to like dive into and maybe like either be a spectator or jump right in?
Oh, wow. You mean like a moment in the film that already happened?
Yeah, like any of the other 25 MCU films, if you could sort of like step back from it and take a look, which one would you want to see?
I mean, the first Avengers was, you know, you can't, that I put that in the cameo in Nomadland, a little Easter egg in there for a reason. Yeah. That was a big turning point. But the Winter Soldier, that movie, I think it was Civil War and Winter Soldier, those two, that moment when Bucky Barnes came into Cap's life, you know, and how difficult that was for him, for two people who can't find their sense of belonging in modern world. And now they had with each other, but they were at odds with each other. This kind of an impossible love they have for each other was very moving for me.
Yes, I'm taking it back to what you were saying too about the collaborative process and how things came together. I know that is partially why the reason maybe you tricked Kumail into the Bollywood dance scene. But like legit, I have to ask, was that something that like, well, we were going to do an action scene and now we want to do a Bollywood, or did you really know that I'm probably just going to have to wait to tell him about this because he's going to freak out, which I would totally understand.
I'm going to let him stick to that version of the story.
You're gonna let him sing? Okay, you know what?
It was evolving. Actually, I would say at some point it was an action / dance sequence, because you know the movies they have action and then dancing at the same time. So I just maybe I've taken the action out, and
that's fair. That's
you can
fair.
tell a little white lies here and there to your cast. I think it's in the contract.
I honestly think I don't blame you, especially again, to your point, there's so many moving parts that even if you intended to tell the truth, it's probably not going to stay the truth for very long. So
thank you
why not lean into it?
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Obviously, I know Kevin and you talked about Jack Kirby, and I know that you went to places outside of the comic book pages for inspiration, but within the comic book world, was there a particular run or a particular storyline that you really wanted to sort of center it in on and I guess draw inspiration for where these characters go, or did you want to write your own book?
I think comic books are always ahead of movies. They were ahead of movies in many, many ways, and I think when Jack Kirby created Eternals, it was always supposed to exist on the peripheral of what was very popular at the time, these other characters that we know really well. So he wanted to tell this really big story. He wanted to talk about a lot of questions that humanity has pondered since the dawn of time through this group of people who very much exist on the peripheral. Have been watching us, and I love that, and I like telling stories about people from the peripheral of society, so that immediately is a draw for me. But then I think the Furpoles and Nate Moore and Kevin, they did a really good job of also looking at the Neil Gaiman run. There's some ideas in that. I think they came up with a really impressive structure, a story that I was immediately going, this is the one for me.
Yeah, I love the internet. The internet's going to go crazy with that whole Neil Gaiman ripped from the Eternals sort of thing. I love that. Real quick, before I get out of here, you mentioned how you placed your Avengers Easter egg in Nomadland, which I definitely caught when I saw it out in the parking lot at the Rose Bowl that first night. But this film, you have more than a few DC references. Like, they call him Superman, and then we talk about Batman and Alfred. And I'm wondering, do you think of the Eternals as the Marvel's Justice League, or more importantly, do you think they exist in the same universe and would like to see that potential crossover? I know the studios will never let it happen, but would you want to see it?
I mean, of course I do. Who doesn't want to see that crossover? But we shouldn't always get what we want. Maybe it's not good for us. Maybe something should be held back. But I think we're in the business of telling modern versions of mythology, of myth from all cultures. Superman exists in many, many cultures. And the creation, the comics of Clark Kent, and then all the brilliant filmmakers that brought him to the screen, they are doing their own personal modern version of that mythology. Icarus is our version of that, but that doesn't mean we can't pay tribute and have a good time with the ones that are so iconic that we love, and also Gilgamesh is, he watches TV, he watches Showtime and watches movies. You'll see if I want to delete the scenes. I think he likes Batman.